Giannis just scored 54 points last night, which is 1 point off from tying his career high. And in spite of this fantastic performance, dude went 19 for 25 from the field. The Milwaukee Bucks still managed to lose this one. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So this video is going to be the first genuine, just straight up post-game recap in a little bit, because I want to talk about this game specifically, both for the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are a team that I've wanted to talk about, but haven't quite found the way to do it, and this game is a great way to do it because they have been pretty freaking good this year, and I want to talk about them out of the gate just to establish that I don't think this loss was as bad for Milwaukee as some people are hyping it up to be. Worthy of mention that the Bucks did not have Damian Lillard in this one, and that's obviously a huge factor both in why they lost and why Giannis managed to score so many points, because he probably wouldn't have done that with Dame on the floor. So with that said, let's talk about the Pacers first. Very good game from Tyrese Halliburton, pretty damn good game from Miles Turner, especially in the first half, because he was just bombing from outside. Bombing from outside in a negative way was Buddy Hield. He went 4 for 14 and 2 for 11 from 3 after being 2 for 12 from 3 in his previous game. So definitely a very significant cold streak for him. Obi Toppin didn't see a lot of minutes in this one. He's frankly been a little bit disappointing for Indiana, at least from my point of view, because I was honestly expecting him to be like an 18 point per game guy. But the biggest standout for Indiana here is Bennedict Mathurin, who is a player that I don't necessarily have a lot of, how do I put this? I don't feel as highly on him as a lot of other people do. I kind of pinned him as a certain type of player pretty much immediately. But while he did have a good offensive game, a rather great offensive game, what stood out was he played some fantastic defense down the stretch here. Giannis had, I think, 48 going into the fourth quarter, and he subbed into the game with about 6 minutes left and managed to score just 2 buckets from there. And Bennedict Mathurin played great defense on him multiple times. I think he blocked him once and stole the ball from him once. Giannis kept bringing the ball too low to let him get to it, which is something you're not supposed to do if you're a big dude. Keep the ball up high where the little guys can't get to it, but that didn't happen in this one. Overall, very good performance from the Indiana Pacers, who now are the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They are 6-3. I believe they have, if not the best offense in the league, they are certainly top 5. Not the best defense in the world, as evidenced by just giving up a 54-point performance, but they can score the shit out of the ball. And the way that they do that is Tyrese Halliburton is this great lead facilitator, can create his own offense, can create a ton of offense for his teammates, and then basically everybody else is just a pretty damn strong play finisher. Guys who can catch and shoot, guys who cut back door, guys who can catch alley-oops, basically just dudes that can hit shots after being assisted. As a result, if you look at their overall spread of the guys scoring the ball, Tyrese is leading the team in points, and then after that there's a bunch of dudes averaging 12 to 9 points. Yeah, so Miles Turner scores 17 a game after Tyrese Halliburton's 23 a game, and then it's 14 for Mathurin, 13 for Buddy, 12 for Aaron Nesmith, 12 for Jalen Smith, who's been really good this year, 11 for Bruce Brown, 9 for Obi Toppin, 8, almost 9 for Andrew Nembhard. Yeah, this team's just, everybody can score the ball pretty well, and Tyrese can set them up exceptionally well. And I was indeed right. They are first in offensive rating thus far this season with a 121.5. Defense is not great, but at the very least, this team can outscore you rather easily. And I think they're a playoff team. I think there are a couple teams in the East that have disappointed, namely the Chicago Bulls. And as a result, they're one of those teams that I think can sneak in here. Now, to talk about Milwaukee, frankly, I think on the offensive end of the floor, this team was good. And I think they kind of are going to be that one way or the other. And that's not really what the concern from them is. A big thing that was great about this game game. Obviously, Giannis having this dominant performance, but Chris Middleton had 19 points in 20 minutes. He looks way better than he did to start the year, and I'm hoping that soon he can start to get major minutes. Now, someone who absolutely dropped the ball, and frankly, the only guy who was really bad for Milwaukee was Brook Lopez. He went 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. He grabbed 1 rebound in 28 minutes, and his defense, he did get 3 blocks, but in the fourth fourth quarter, there were quite a few possessions where he just was not in the right spot. And that's rather huge for Milwaukee and their defense, because what I've said about Milwaukee time and time again is if you have Giannis and Brook Lopez, it's kind of impossible to be a terrible defense. Obviously, they've been bad to start the year, but if Brook Lopez is just not going to be in the right position, which historically is the thing that he's excellent at, that's going to be a big problem. If it's literally just Giannis alone who has to anchor the team's defense while also being the most dominant player on the offensive end of the floor, well, you're going to see some struggles for sure. So hopefully Brook hasn't just fallen off. He is old enough that it would be entirely excusable, but we really hope that's not the case. Malik Beasley was good in this fourth quarter, hit a couple of big shots. However, he also had a bunch of bad defensive possessions, including one that I want to be put on screen. I'll be sure to send the clip to Rudy, where he's just standing there. Do you see this shit? He's just standing there. Cameron Payne, also not good. Jay Crowder was solid. Bobby Portis was pretty damn good for them. I do think the solution in terms of their immediate rotation for defense would be to put Pat Connaughton in the starting lineup over Malik Beasley. Pat isn't like some great defender by any stretch. I definitely think he's a better one than Malik Beasley by a significant margin, because Malik Beasley's just not a good defender. So I expect Pat to be a better defender, and then he's still a very capable three-point shooter. Maybe not on the volume, definitely not the movement shooter that Malik is, but a very good one and a better defender for sure. Not to mention, he has been in Milwaukee for a very long time, so he has much better synergy with their main core guys, understands the defensive scheme a lot better. You know, granted, the scheme's changed a little bit because of Adrian Griffin, but I do think that would definitely help. I am a big Malik Beasley guy. I have been talking about how good he can be in the right context for a long time, but especially if Damian Lillard is going to be the guy paired with him in the backcourt, you can't have Malik out there with Dame for big stretches of time, especially to close games. That's definitely what I would propose. For this game in general, I felt like the role players actually did a pretty damn solid job. If anything, the team would like manage to sustain their leads pretty well. Honestly, I hate to say this because obviously he had freaking 54, but when Giannis got subbed into the game with about 6 minutes left to go, it kind of killed the momentum that the bench unit had going, where they were handling the Pacers rather well. Giannis came in and then really wasn't as dominant as he had been in the quarters beforehand, and they lost. Not the best loss here for Milwaukee. Pretty devastating to score 54 points and lose, but I do think it makes a little bit more sense than you would think just on the surface. If you actually watch the game, they kind of just dropped the ball at the very end when they were otherwise playing pretty good. In fact, I think they had like an 8-point lead right before Giannis subbed in. I'm not trying to put the blame on Giannis, because if he didn't have 50 points getting in when he subbed in, then they probably wouldn't have been in the game whatsoever to begin with. They definitely had momentum in their favor, made the substitution. It obviously makes sense to put Giannis in the game at this point. You know, the game's about momentum, and that ended up making it not great. That's my conclusion. I'm not going to make too many sweeping judgments about the Milwaukee Bucks in general, because Dame being not there, it's just eventually it's just Giannis and then Chris for 20 minutes and some dudes. And Giannis can have literally 54, but he needs more than just some dudes to win from there. So with that said, I think this looks worse than it actually is, and I think that's been the case for the Bucks quite a bit this year. Point of attack defense is a problem. I don't know how they're going to solve that problem. I do think Pat playing more and playing in place of Beasley to close games will help, but I also don't think that's the solution. He was a plus 17 in this one, which is easily the best plus minus of any player, so maybe I'm on to something with that one. But yeah, with that said, shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.